Aloha. My name is Kumu Mike Lee, and we're at Leeward Community College, and we're conducting a class, our second class, on Allodial Titles, and what is the kuleana or responsibility under law, using the law to use to reclaim your rights, your vested interest rights. Now, I am not an attorney, and I am not a paralegal. What I am is a researcher, and what I'm bringing to the table is my research findings. What people do with them is their business. And what I do is fill in the blanks of things that people don't know. It goes back to Kamehameha I, who had the law of the splintered paddle. And the law of the splintered paddle said that no Hawaiian should be treated like an animal. That you had the right to go through ahupuas and ilis without being molested. In Kamehameha I's life, wars were frequent occurrences. So people who were fishermen or farmers were very uneasy because one of the strategies were to destroy the farms and everything to hurt the king of that area by taking away food and causing famine and disruption as a strategy to win. So when Kamehameha was going through one of the ahupuas, the people saw him at 7 feet, strapping, muscular person, knew he was like a nakoa, and went after him. He ran for his life, got stuck in the reef, his foot, and they got their paddles and they were beating him to death. And he was getting whacked, but you know, he's so big with those ali'i bones, it was breaking the paddles. The paddles were not strong enough to kill him, he had big bones. So the paddles were breaking, that's why it's the splintered paddle. But he learned that day an important lesson, that he was just an innocent bystander going through, and nobody should be treated like this. So we have codified the law of the splintered paddle of not molesting another Kanaka or person going through lands that they were a foreigner to. Very important, because it establishes the right of the individual that they're greater than an animal, that they're not to be treated like an animal, and that they should be respected. Okay, it's inalienable rights to live and survive. That's the first thing. The second is a more ancient law called kanavai. Kanavai deals with the water. Vai is without water there is no life. Life on the land or life in the ocean. The kanavai law said, yes, as an individual you have the right to live and not be treated like an animal, but at the same time, you do not have the right to extinguish other people's rights. Because if you're a taro farmer and you block off the water upstream, the community will suffer downstream and they won't be able to feed their families and their crops will die. So because your actions will cause death on the community, the law was, in the kapu system, if you do that, you deserve to die, because you're imposing the penalty of death on other people by your thoughtlessness, by your greediness, by your selfishness. So the Kanavai law said, water doesn't belong to you, it belongs to everybody. Everybody has the right to subsistence, feed their family, exist, have children, and feed those children. But you do not have the right to cut their livelihood off on the land or in the sea. In the sea, because when you cut the fresh water off to the sea, all our natural fishes like moi and mullet and aholiholi and opu, they can't go up and breed for a next generation. So you're taking food away and starving the people. So those two things are very key here, because when Kamehameha III came about, he said, I come from the tree of Keawe. My father was the conqueror in the feudal kapu system. And from his branch that he conquered came Kamehameha II and Kamehameha III. I am the mo'i. Nobody told me to do this because I'm the absolute ruler, not chiefs or anybody. But I'm going to extinguish my absolute right over the whole archipelago. And from my branch, I'm going to give you the bundle of sticks. And what's a bundle of sticks? Well, you see, I'm Lama Wood, and I'm going to give you sticks for your right to live by my right as owner of all the archipelago through my father. So what do we mean? Meaning this lama wood, you can turn it into a spear to catch fish. You can turn it into the makaha sluice gate to keep those fish. You can turn it into an o'o stick to farm. Okay, and I'm giving you that bundle, and I'm giving you the land to work on this. And I'm going to extinguish my rights, and I'm going to push it to you to be the king and the queen. Because guess what? The easiest way for them to take over, them being not kanakama ole, is you kill me and my children, and that's it. They get the land. But if I, in strategy, make all my ali'is and my people, my maka'ainana, I extinguish my rights and give it to them in a Western instrument called land tenure. What happens is they may kill me and my family, but you try to go after everybody. You cut one head off the serpent, 2 heads will come off. You cut 2 heads, 4 heads will come off. You cut that. So it's an endless thing. You know, and that's his strategy. One, for the Kanaka, the children of the land, never to be dispossessed from the land. Because when you get into how they did it, there were 2 ways. One, when Kamehameha III was looking in the Western system of land tenure, he saw Russia. And what happened to Russia? Started as over 1,500 years ago as a small little country. And they invaded and attacked all their neighbors and became 26 time zones. And it's called spoils of war. Charlemagne, might makes right. You attack your weaker enemies, you incorporate them, the Goths, the Visigoths, and all of that. You have the right, because you're stronger, to take over their land and hold it and put your governors. That is a strategy, and it's approved in Europe. That's how those kingdoms came to be. That's why Queen Liliuokalani said to her people, don't fight. Don't fight. This is illegal, but don't fight. She didn't want the U.S. to pass a declaration of war, thereby giving them the opportunity to conquer Hawaii, thereby giving them the legal right of spoils of war to take us legally. Don't do that. But what she didn't say is, fight smart. Fight legal. Fight legal through their laws. Fight through the laws. Don't hurt anybody, but just fight through the laws. In the Blackstone dictionary, legal dictionary, okay, there is a word from which all of this comes from. So Kamehameha III looked at these things. The Blackstone dictionary says inure, I-N-U-R-E. The definition of inure is your interests that you have in your property, fee simple or allodial. Once you pass on, or you sell it to another, the guarantee to the guarantor, the owner, to the person who wants to buy it, you extinguish your rights of ownership, and it passes on to them and their family in their lifetime. Okay. The problem with this is not the dictionary Kamehameha III used for the land tenure setup. He used the Bouvier French dictionary, which has a different spelling. N-U-R-E. E-N-U-R-E. And what this says for allodial lands is your interest when you die, it extinguished, but it passes on to your children and their children in perpetuity, forever, as long as your family lives. The Mahele, because at the time of the Mahele, they had smallpox, chickenpox, influenza that were brought by the traders, the whalers from China and everything. And people were dying in mass. You see this collapse in the Hawaiian population. So in the land tenure that they set up a router clause. The router clause was, if your family got wiped out from disease and your title was accepted, unchallenged, and you were given the title. Now, a royal patent is a quit claim. It's the highest quit claim there is. It's the king saying, I'm no longer the title holder, you are. And the only way I can get it back is if you do treason against me, that I can take it back. Not if you don't pay your taxes, because there was no taxes for the LCAs that Kamehameha III put out. Okay? No one could extinguish your rights unless you did treason against the government. Okay? So what Kamehameha III was, he gave up his bundle of sticks to you, and you have the right for gathering of wood, fish, water, springs. You have the right to the access to those springs, to religious ahus of your family. You have all those rights. He gave them up to you. Okay? So he codified this in law through acts of the Hawaiian Kingdom government that was elected by the people, democratic constitutional monarchy, okay, which you could sue the king in the court system for redressment. Before, they just chop off your head and you're gone and no more problems. Okay, but he gave up his power. Okay, tenure, okay. It was the fourth and third volume, 1856, and before that, in the early 1850s, that they used to set up the building blocks of what gives you your vested rights. What is vested rights, that word? It means that you were given rights like the American Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They acknowledge you as a living human being have those rights. What is the pursuit of happiness in the framers of the U.S. Constitution? It wasn't skinny dipping. Okay. That wasn't the happiness they were not talking about. They were not talking about what happens during a full moon when everybody looks at each other with the googly eyes. That's not the happiness they were talking about. The happiness that they were talking about is owning land, because you could feed your family. You have an inheritance to pass on. You can make something out of yourself by picking yourself up from your bootstraps. Your fire in your belly. Whatever you want to do, you can make with what you have here, and what you have here, and what you have here, and how many kids you could produce to work that land, okay? That's the pursuit of happiness the framers were talking about. Kamehameha III was very apprised of that. So he set it up for multiple purposes, to protect the kingdom and protect his people. Allodial, which the Hawaiians have it, Allodial, means that the king was the holder of the tree with all the rights, and he broke them off in bundles and gave them away for you to give to your children and grandchildren in perpetuity as the highest claim over fee simple or freehold land, which is less than allodial. So he set up the perfect system. So why did it go south? Why did it go so badly? Not because of the United States, because of us. Kanaka's got to take the hit on this one. What nobody explained to the people for this great system was, please show your children your portfolio, let them know the laws, and let them know how to enact the laws. When you die, they have to do a quit claim to come up to the plate to say, we're his kids. And nobody else can make these claims, so we do a quit claim. Queen Emma knew it. Peter Ka'eo knew it for Jane La'ila'i. They all went into the courts when their mothers and fathers died, and they put a quit claim saying, I'm the owner of this land. But guess what? Nobody taught everybody else this. So what happened is, they didn't know Grandpa's property where they had. He kept it close to the vest. Why? And then he never told them what their rights were, so that when they passed, they could continue it in the family as equal tenants. And that group, that family, was the kingdom of the Navai family, of the Pu family, of the Keave family. All the families were their own kingdoms now. And they had all these rights with all these bundles that were to be shared equally what they wanted to do, but nobody knew. Isn't that a shame? The perfect system was set up, but nobody knew. Because only the guys who put it in, who had the land, knew who it came from and why it was, and they were working it. But when it came to teaching their grandchildren and their children, they didn't tell them anything. So when they died, the children were ignorant, and they thought everything was free, whole, fee simple. And that's why today, oh, Grandpa sold it, it's gone. No, it's not. It's the ignorance that causes the trouble today. Because the laws. In U.S. land court, there is no statute of limitations on fraud. This whole thing's a fraud. Why is it a fraud? It's a fraud because this is not a state, according to U.S. constitutional law. The Kue petition in 1898 and 1899 too, stopped the process under the Constitution for what is called a Treaty of Annexation, which is it's a doctrine of political question under the Constitution of the United States, Article 2, Section 6, the Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause states that it is the presidential executive power to bring in treaties, and then the Congress approves, vis-a-vis the Senate, of those treaties. Well, guess what? Hawaiian Kingdom nationals never wanted to be part of the U.S. It wasn't Texas. Texas wanted it. It wasn't Oklahoma, Wyoming, or California. It was said, please take us, take us, take us. Or Arizona, take us, take us, take us. We said, Aoli, Kuwait petition. No. And so the Senate listened and said, no. At that time, there was something called Manifest Destiny, where President McKinley, in imperialism, wanted to take over land. And in the Spanish-American War of 1898, the land was ceded by Spain for Cuba and for the Philippines and for other territories that the United States wanted to broaden its outreach over commerce and trade in the Pacific. So it looked at Hawaii. It was defeated by their own laws. So what did they do? They got Congressman Newlands to pass a resolution. Now, this is the funny thing. The guys who were the descendants of the missionaries who started the sugarcane, pine, the big five that we know in Hawaii, they had always wanted to steer the Kingdom of Hawaii to the United States and get rid of the monarchy. Well, what they didn't want, they've always wanted to steal the land from the very beginning, but what they didn't want is the United States telling them what to do on their private lands, not mine. You don't come into my house and tell me what to do with your laws. So what they did in the Newlands Resolution, it only talked about kingdom crown lands, not private lands, okay? So to this very day, under the law they passed, which is illegal by the Constitution, because you cannot pass an act of Congress to take over land in Germany. It don't work that way. But they did it to the Kanakas, aloha spirit, nice, nice people. They don't, Queen told, don't fight. So all of these things are existing, and 1900, the Organic Act comes, don't talk about the Queen, we'll throw you in jail, don't talk about your language, kill your language, don't be Hawaiian, you're us now. Okay, we repainted you, okay, for sale. We put a sale mark and you didn't know what happened, okay? That's the history. So in this, what's still at play is the law. And the law says it never changed, you're still the owners. Just because they tell you you aren't, doesn't make it so, does not make it so. The law tells you what's so. So this happened in our culture, and it was insult to injury because the Tutus that were born in 1907, they were still learning Hawaiian, yeah? But the Organic Act was there. By 1930 and 40, they weren't teaching Hawaiian to their children, yeah? Because it's stuck. You get penalty, white is right, brown is frown. Kanaka was a bad word, okay? Because if you want to succeed in the Johnny Appleseed world, you can't be haloa. You can't be, you're rooted in the land. Because why? We want that land. So get those roots out. Yeah? And the prophecy is, no more kalo, no more Hawaiians. So they're saying, extinguish yourself. Extinguish who you are, your identity, and your connection to thousands of years of iwi kupuna that gives you the foundation to be here, because they brought you here. The extension of them is you in this world. The arm, the fingers, and you is here. So they're saying, die. So what did it do? They capped us. Cap? How do you cap a Hawaiian? Chicago gun guy, cap him. No. We're not talking that. What we're talking is they capitalized the name of dead people in law. So they played this Chinese checker game with the Hawaiians using legal language up here, and Kanakas don't even know what they're talking about because there was no key book to explain the language they were using. Kanakas under the kingdom, 96%, they can speak Hawaiian, they can write Hawaiian, they can speak English, they can write English. No homeless on the beach, no thousands of Kanakas in jail. Okay, under the kingdom law. Okay, all those laws were founded there for good reason. What they do is the state of Hawaii, the fake state of Hawaii, how they did it was they said all the Kanakas legally are dead. Yes, they're walking, but we have a name for it. It's called a zombie. Okay, a zombie is half alive, half dead. The half alive part is in real life. The dead part is in law. In law, they took away all your rights and you never knew it. Okay, and how did they did it? In law, when you cap every letter, that's for dead people. When you're alive, they do not cap all your names that way. And what they said is, we're your trust, we're the trust, we're the Kamehameha School's trust on all you living Hawaiians, and we have the right to tell you what to do with your land. That's why the language of the state constitution is trust, 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 territory, trust, 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 trust. Because they have no subject matter jurisdiction, they know it. So they're doing this legal mumbo jumbo of talking to you in a language you don't understand. So you can't enact your inalienable vested rights to be. Now this happened a long time ago in Spain. Guys would come in and say, I'm the conquistador. That guy's dead, I'm selling my land. Well, he wasn't. He just made big mouth and was selling land he didn't own. Does that sound familiar? Okay. So what happened is they passed the treaty of the law of Sedeki, 1665, which says, I'm a living person. You have no right to come in and take over my land and start distributing it as if it was yours. Oh my goodness. You mean there is such a law? You mean they did it to somebody else? Yes, 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 yes. Well, how do we get out of this legal mumbo jumbo? Where is our lifeline? Throw me a lifeline. Okay. The lifeline is that you are not a living person under U.S. law, and they are the trust and the fiduciary of all your assets and all your vested rights. Article 1, Section 1 of the state constitution says this: we have the right to make the laws on the people because it comes from the people. What people? Whose people? Where's your pala that says you own this land? Show me yours, I'll show you mine. Okay? They don't go there. They just said people because they thrive in your ignorance. The people are the vested rights holders of foreign allodial titles, which the Supreme Court, under Oliver Wendell Holmes, when he heard a case in Louisiana in the early 1800s, the case came up to the Supreme Court because Louisiana was first owned in Western venue. It belongs to the Indians, but the Western conquistadores came here first. They claimed it for Spain, and they had patents for the King of Spain. Okay, and then France, under Napoleon, invaded Spain and put his brother as the King of Spain, and they claimed Spain was theirs because the brother of Napoleon was the King of Spain. This is the histrionics on it. So then, when the guys in Spain got this word that, the guys in Louisiana got the word, they said, yeah, but we got this from Spain. Okay, we got the patent from Spain, the original guys. And so the Louisiana Purchase took place in 1815 by Thomas Jefferson. So you got the third party, the Americans, the French, and the Spanish. But you had the American Supreme Court. So under Justice Wendell Holmes, this got thrown into the Supreme Court. And the guy said, I got my royal patent from Spain. And Oliver Wendell Holmes and the Supreme Court of the United States, under the Constitution, said, you're right. We don't have powers over foreign allodial titles that the histrionics created. This in Western, inure, enure. Enure, inure. Blackstone, land tenure for England, 1870. Bouvier, 4th edition, 1856. Kamehameha III created enure, not inure. What's the diff? There's just one little letter. Well, in law, and, or, but, those conjunctions mean not the same thing. Even though they're hooking up clauses and phrases, they do it differently. Contracts are broken on and, or, but. Inure, enure.
Inure, what year? I'm sorry.
Inure is 1760, 1770, Blackstone, the Blackstone Legal Dictionary. Okay, enure, Bouvier, 4th volume, 1856. Okay, 3rd volume, before 1856. Kamehameha III founded the principles on enure, Bouvier. Okay. Even experts today, certain professors, don't know this. This means that your vested interest rights pass on to your ancestors and cannot be extinguished. They have a lifetime interest. It's predicated on your life. As long as you're alive, you have the interest. When you die, it transfers to your next of kin, whoever they are, cousins, aunties, mom, dad, whatever. Then they become equal tenant rights. This is what the foundation of the Mahele was done. Tenure. So the understanding of the operating principles of what holds this Lego set up is very important because it's the law. And what you do when you come before a judge is you come with an empty box. The judge pretends I'm ignorant. I just came down from Mars. I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Okay, so what the judge says is, please educate me on what the heck you're talking about.
Okay.
So the first thing he wants to know is, what's your beef? What's bugging you? So you in law say, this guy is saying he owns the land, but he doesn't. So what? You came to me for redressment. How can I help you out to fix it? Fix it, fix it, fix it. Make it right, fix it. Okay, so what you have to do is put in the box is these documents that we passed out to you are 2 winning cases that you've never heard about for good reason. It's the dike in the dam. Thousands of acres crossed hands and nobody knew. And how did they do it? They put the laws in the box. Everything I gave you as a researcher, not a lawyer, not as a paralegal, but as a researcher, I condensed it to the absolute thing of winning cases, that what you do with it is your business and not mine. I am just telling you the ABCs of what my research I found, and I'm doing a presentment to you. I am not a lawyer, and I'm not telling you anything about how to do anything. I am just giving you information in your box that if you choose to do whatever, this is what the operating principles are to prepare yourself to come in front and to put the box down, and you have to put the laws of the U.S. Constitution, U.S. case history, Hawaiian case history, under Hawaii revised statutes, and kingdom law, which is the real deal. You have to put all the bells and whistles, because look, we're taping this during the time, this is the 12th of December, it's coming to Christmas. And if you want those lights on your tree, you gotta plug them in. And then ta-da! Ding, 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 ding. Otherwise, if you don't plug it in with the laws, you can't light up the Christmas tree. And bah humbug. So what I'm telling you here is, you have the power. It isn't predicated on sovereignty groups. It isn't predicated on professors at University of Hawaii, law school students, or even lawyers. It's predicated on you doing the first fundamental rule is, take care of yourself. How do you take care of yourself in well-being? You take care of your interests. How do you do that? You follow the law. So I'm asking that people put the law first because it's there to protect your interests. And guess what? Boy, does it ever, if you know where to plug in to the Christmas tree, where to put it in. And it's A, B, C. No throwing stones, no throwing stones with the mouth, no attacking anybody except putting on the table, Judge, why aren't they following the law? Why aren't you following the law? And why isn't that state and the Constitution and everybody following their own laws? Can you tell me that, Judge? And he's got to look at it and say, damn, you're right. Case dismissed, they own the land. You know, that's how you do it. And it's been done twice that you've never heard of. Yeah, and it's in your hands. So the power to move ahead, since we're all caught in the same net, because let me tell you this, it's not Hawaiians against Haoles or Filipinos or Chinese investors from Hong Kong or China, because all you Kanakas out there and on TV, guess what? You own somebody else's land. Even if you are Kanaka, you most likely are not on your family Allodial Titles. You got a mortgage. You got vested interests, but you're in the same boat. So it's not us against them. It's all of us caught in the same net. Me too. Okay, so the thing is, with the truth and with the law, there is hope to redress this and move forward. When the kingdom, which it is coming, because the cat's out of the box. It's out of the box. And when it does come, and a government is formed by the people, for the good of the people, they're going to have to pass several laws. Revamp of the Constitution, Kingdom Constitution. They're going to have to pass laws to a land commission review, which they're going to have to say, all you Kanakas that claim that you own the land, bring your palapala, your documents, bring your genealogy, so we know who really owns these lands from your ancestors that we can enact. Then the third phase, or the second phase, is going to be how do we address this lie that was perpetrated by the US on everybody. People came from the mainland, China, everywhere, Philippines, they in good faith went through the process they thought was for real, but it was for fake, like no WMDs, and we never torture, and Vietnam, the dominoes, you know, it's all these BS things that they put on the table until the truth comes out. What has to happen is that the commission, after finding who owns what, where, how, now there has to be a reconciliation commission to the people who paid all that. But that's all of us. You know, just because you're a big landowner now on Maui, where the Ritz-Carlton is, now you got the Ritz-Carlton. You're still living in Oahu on somebody at Kanaka's land. So how do you get redressment? Are you going to pay the Kanakas for the interest in their stuff, like a warranty deed, which is like a lease? What are we all going to do together? Okay, we're not exclusive of anything. You cannot say we're perfect, we're out here. No, we're just as caught as everybody else. And as I mentioned, just say that we're in December 12, 2014. Just say that the debt bubble on all those student loans, which is $1 trillion now, comes bursting the third week of September of 2015, and say after the collapse of those toxic loans that went out and almost collapsed the entire banking system throughout the world, and the intervention that was done by the Federal Reserve was to pay off on taxpayer money trillions of dollars that went to stabilize the banks, and then the Federal Reserve printed out $50 billion of funny money for the last 8 years to float the world economy, and it took it out as a loan. It had nothing, and it took out a loan on nothing and said it was something, no WMDs, domino theory for Vietnam, and we never torture anybody. Okay, rule of law. Okay, the finding of facts of what is not a fact. Okay, say all of this, the chickens come home to roost in September of 2015. Okay, just say that happens. Hawaiians are complicit, and people who are Hawaiian, I'm quarter Hawaiian, okay, I'm a two-bit piece. The bottom line, 2 bits, give you 2 bits. Okay, the bottom line is, okay, Hawaiians got paid off by all these unions to have their SUVs and widescreen TV, and every Friday, pa'ina with the beer and the cooler, and hey, we're the shaka. Okay, and all of a sudden, comes to an end. And not just Kanakas, but Filipinos, Chinese, Haoles, everybody gets thrown out because this bubble creates no more tourism because nobody got money. Because that funny money had no petrodollars, gold, platinum, silver behind to back it up. It was for real. There was something behind it that you were getting in exchange. Yeah? Say that happens. What does it do to the Kanaka Maoli? How do you feed your kids? You know, you don't got money no more. And you don't got, but not just you, everybody's in the same boat. Okay. And then you fast forward to the first week of January 2016, United States, biggest market in the world. Okay. Now everybody's out of a job. China got 20, 30 million people out of a job because no more pala to buy their stuff. Now we got a world depression. So it just compounds. But let me now pull back to 1929, the big crash. When the big crash happened in Hawaii, it was a territory at the time. And most Kanakas, during the Depression, didn't even know there was a depression. Why? They go fish, okay? They go fish, they plant taro, they got mala, they got sweet. So food is not an issue here because all family and everybody brought a box of mangoes, they share. And they go fishing, oh, everybody got fish. So nobody went hungry because Kanakas, they take care, always. You're mine, you're my responsibility. You live in my community. That's why it was so easy doing what they did. It's a fact, okay? But what Kanakas do best is, hey, I like your lehulu. So I'll give you 2 nets for that lehulu. We have our own economy, always have. Barter and trade. Look, you log my yard, I'll give you my spring water. I'll give you gas if you do this for me. So I know Kanakas, things are going to go back and forth. They don't need Walmart, Kmart, and opening up a can. I'm going to die if I don't have 5 years of canned stuff. Canned tuna, canned this, canned that. Because we never operate on cans. We know where the springs are in the mountain. We know what fiddle fern to get to make salad and all of this stuff. We know what fishes to eat, what limu and stuff like that. The problem is with all this developing, killing on our limu, encroaching on all that land and stuff. But we still know how to make something out of nothing, okay? And then share with each other. And then each other help each other out. It's the people who came that don't know where all this stuff is and know where all the springs are and the opahe and all that stuff, and are not fishermen and maka'ala to all of this stuff or ma'a to this stuff. It's kind of hard. Now you're on the generosity of Aloha Spirit, which when I was at Alamana yesterday in that big traffic jam trying to catch the e-bus at 2 hours, you know, for the express, people were saying there's no Aloha Spirit anymore. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why we got to this awful mess. Okay, you take this little thesis, and I think you can understand. You know, things are not right. The compass is busted. Why? No more truth in the needle. So to get back to truth without us cannibalizing each other and blame, is use the history to get out of this by using the law to build the Lego set that gives equity and justice for every person under law of splintered paddle and kanawai. Respect for each other in aloha, in the presence of ha, the breath of life of God. Okay. So this course moves you ahead to have stuff in your box to do homework and maka'ala, read that stuff. And what I want to do in our next class is take you to the Bureau of Conveyances to go through and get your family inventory on all islands and how to do it without spending years going through there. Because guess what? I've been through every single book 6 times on all islands. So I kind of mastered how to get the chase without going through every single book. After being through every single book, unless you've gone down that road, you cannot make a roadmap of how to avoid the traps. So I want to take the class with Lucy's organization to the Bureau of Conveyances and then the archives. Now the archives is a trip. The archives is a trip because they've started a computer system now because they're tracking. They're tracking. You have to type your name, your address, and your phone number to go in, and you have to computer in and computer out, and they ask you, why are you there? It's none of their business. That's your business.
So what you put on your?
No, I'm not so, okay, I'm stating the fact, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm a researcher telling you what is. I'm not telling you what to do. That's your conscience, yes. That's your kuleana, that's from the pit of your stomach, yeah? I'm not kue all the time. You get the feeling that I'm like nudging every now and then, kue, but I'm always follow the law, because they can't get you if you're following the law, because it's like, you did this and that because you followed the law. That sounds really asinine. You're supposed to follow the law being a good citizen, aren't you? Yeah? So what's your complaint? What's your beef? You guys created the law. You created this mess and you created the law. So let's use the law as a fundamental structure to get out of this mess. Because it's there. It's just that you don't know what button to press to light up the Christmas tree. So we'll do that. Now, what happens in the archives, they do this ping pong Chinese checkers with you. You ask questions and say, go to the state library. You go to the state library because they go to the archives. So they play ping pong with you and you never get your question answered. So what I'm going to do is take you guys there. If I show it on film, then they're going to try to counter everything because we're giving them how to bypass all of their guard keepers, gate watchers, and chains of locking the gate and bolting the doors and stuff. So I know how to go around all of this stuff, but if we videotape that stuff, then they will put everything underground and say, what do you want? What do you want? I don't know. Where do I begin? What do you want? Go to the state library and find out. Then you go to the state library and say, go back to them and find out. And you go to ping pong ball. But then they have no resources. When I went to the state library State Archives, 20 years ago, they had all the books upstairs. All the Mahele books you could go and access. They've taken everything away. And what do they say for the excuse? Mold. Moldy books. Okay, what? You got mold. Terrible case of mold. You have to take everything away so you know nothing. And you're coming in with nothing, and we're not going to tell you anything, but you got to find something with nothing. Okay, that's their way of, catch-22. Is we're not going to help you. We're not going to show you. We're going to track you, but we don't want you to succeed.
So we can stop you. Yeah.
I'm going to show you the fast way. This lady worked 30 years to find. She couldn't find. In 30 minutes, I found her grandmother, her grandmother's property, her grandmother's 6 husbands, and everything. And she had been working, could never find this stuff. I will show you how to go to the Mahele documents, find it by your family name that you do know, find your LCA number, and where all of it is in the native testimony, foreign testimony, by your tutu under oath, all his story, how he got it, what he was doing, what she was doing, what she was farming, when she was farming, in all documents that they swore to. That is certifiable under rules of evidence that your genealogy is there, and it's in lieu of a birth certificate. That if it's in there, you don't need a birth certificate, because it's in there, and it's certifiable to take to court. So I'll show you all of those things, how to fast track all of this stuff, so you don't waste weeks and weeks, months and months, and you can go in 30 minutes and you pull out all this stuff. But we're not going to film that, because if I show the secret, then they're going to get rid of all the stuff, because they don't want you to find this stuff, and then you won't even know what to ask for to begin, okay, to do the tango that they put out for you. So this is a game. It's a Monopoly game. Go pass, go collect $200. Okay. So in this process, it's a process which gives you a chance, because there's rules to the process. You know the rules, you know what to do. And if you know how to emergency bypass, anybody who works for an organization, there is the status way and the quick way. That you can do it just the same, it's just as legal, but you don't have to spend any of the time doing it. Everybody knows who worked anywhere. There is the yak way that takes a long time to do, or here it is, boom, it's done. How are you supposed to do it? It's legal. It's done, it's lawful and legal, in the real world. So we're doing real world things, we're all in it together. There's no hai makiri makali here, and no maka nana here, and kauva slave over there. We're all in it together, and no pa, pui, hauli, put. There's certain people around in the Hawaiian community that use Hawaiianness to separate Hawaiians. One, the first thing is, you're not enough Hawaiian. You're only a 50%er. I'm a 75-100%er. You're nothing, okay? That's one. Two, you're not elite enough. You're nothing. You're a kauva, slave. Okay, where did that come from? Okay, it's all real. Okay, so that's 1 and 2. And then the third one is the masterpiece of all, which is not our fault, is, which is, you don't speak Hawaiian. So it's like, it's not my fault. It's the Organic Act fault. Shut down our tutus. So they throw all of this crap on Kanaka, and oh, by the way, go back enough, we're all cousins. Okay? So guess what? The family tree, those sticks are us. So what's your beef, pal? And it's all true. Tell me I'm a lie. Show me everything that I said is a lie. Okay? It's not. It's the operating principles of the real world we deal with all the time. And it's slap in the head, pa'i here, ho'opa'a there. And it's like, hey, this is only our people. We haven't got to the real world yet. So we have to work in a clear way. Nobody agrees in your own family during Thanksgiving. So I'm not asking for that. That's the blue moon. What I'm asking for is there's a clear way of A plus B equals C. Take care of your kuleana and your family. Done. But don't hurt anybody along the process, and follow the law. And that is a clear instrument not to have that anger when maybe everything collapses. The Kanakas get mad because Tutu is dying and my kids are starving. What am I supposed to do? Because you did this to us. Loading docks. Come on. Take it on. Spit. Come on. Okay. That is what we want to avoid, because there is no higher or lower here. Everybody is caught by the same net. And Nobody is pure and nobody is tainted. One of our value sets as Kanakas is pu'u honua. You screw up, if you can make it to that heiau, done. Reset. Pow! Let them go. Okay? But you don't do that until you achieve justice. But we want to push the reset button and muddle through and work it out. And by the way, our mistakes are not to be walked away from. They're our greatest teachers. They're our greatest teachers. They make us masters. So don't spit on the mistake. Treasure them as your greatest teacher. Because what we are doing is cultivating the field of understanding by seeding attitude. What is the attitude? Follow the law. Take care of each other. Pu'u honua. We all screw up. Who are we going to banish? If we take it that route, there's no kingdom. Because everybody gets banished. Everybody's screwed up. We're all human. Nobody's perfect. So you have to have the mindset of we all survive and thrive and increase the opportunity of abundance together through truth and understanding and putting our needs on the table to be addressed and redressed. Anything less devalues everybody in their kuleana to move forward. There is no perfect union. You look at the United States, Democrats and Republicans, they're at each other's throats. They're passing nothing. They're getting $160,000 a year for accomplishing nothing. And the people are suffering. Is that what we want? No. And whatever suffering that we had only made us tougher, only made us sharper, only made us appreciate what we lost and what we should have back and work to get it back. Otherwise, you take it for granted. You know, you spoiled brat. You had everything. You had the Garden of Eden. You never thought twice about it till it went away. Till the limo disappeared, till the birds disappeared, till everything that was your world disappeared, and finally you got off your ass to do something, put skin in the game, and say, "Ole, Article 1, Section 1, I never gave you permission. I'm the one you're talking about, and I didn't give you permission." So if you do it in the right way for the right reason, without harming anybody, pono, it's okay. And that's a value set. You know, that's why, guess what? The whole world comes to Hawaii to sell Hawaii. Big kahuna, aloha shirts, luau, Hawaiian King's bun. I don't want to go to our brothers and sisters and, you know, denigrate them by saying they don't steal their language by hapa and everything, make money off of it. But everything Hawaiian is up for sale. Our sand at Barking Sands, they were selling at $8 a pound. $8 a pound of our sand. Why? That sand was so unique, it was equal to the sand on Mars. Okay? And NASA wanted that sand. And not only that, the way things can grow on that sand. Our practitioners for the hala and the seeds of the hala needed that sand. Most Kanakas don't even know that. Don't even know there was a contested case on Kauai against the sand being taken away and sold for $8 a pound. And our cultural practitioners came to the forefront, put skin on the table, pro se attorneys, and they said, "Ole, you don't sell one piece of us. The water doesn't belong to us. It came from Keakua. Free dirt. You want dirt? Here it is. Free. You want water? Here it is. Free. I didn't create the dirt. I didn't create the water. It wasn't me. Put your hand on the, you say Kanakas, you own the land, put your hand on the land for 1,000 years. What happens to your hand? It'll blow away. Because you can't hold it for 1,000 years. It don't belong to us. Keakua created that. And the genealogy of Tutupele is our family, not a god. It's our family. There were real people in the Kumulipo 2,300 years ago. They're not gods, they're real people. Bring them to truth and walk in line with the truth. But what they gave us through Keakua was amazing. I am the 960 generation of our Moko'auhau by name over 40,000 years. There is no other family group that has a name. It's this thick of our family by name from Ki'i and La'i down to me. So, you know, it was important. Those things were important. They were Hawaiian value sets. When did I last hear a sovereignty group talk about Hawaiian value set? Value what? Hey, you can't know Moses, when he led the people out of slavery, God said to Moses, hey, you don't like being a slave? Get up. Why are you staying there? Well, you don't like being oppressed as a wife? What are you waiting for? Get out. Do something about it. Speak up. Say something under the law. Okay? And then Moses saw the promised land. Okay? He saw the promised land. But most of the sovereignty groups, they don't know where we're going. I'm telling you this because China is waiting out there to take over Hawaii with their new aircraft carriers and their huge missiles and their 200 million man army. Raise your army, Hawaiians. Where's your army to push back? You got none. You and whose army is going to enforce whose law? You got none in reality. Okay? But you do have Kiokua, and you do have your brain, and you do have the law. And you're not hopeless, or hapless, or helpless. There is a way fundamentally to move forward, take back your power, and move forward, kuka, and move forward. And there are treaties that can be done to secure the security interests of the United States. Where's the Hawaiian Coast Guard? The 2010 census of Kanakas under the US government, there are 500,000 people that claim to be part Hawaiian or full Hawaiian. 250,000 in the mainland, 250,000 here. What does it take to run a government in institutional memory to cut out the paychecks, to be security guards, to be the comptroller, to be the post person and all that? Do we have a big enough population to do it? Because the reason why I'm saying that is, who made us this big megalopolis that you have to spend $3 billion to keep the roads and everything going, and expectations of where people are in the now? Do the sovereignty group talk about that? They're not even on the same page, okay? They have no plan, because it's get it back. And then what? And then what? And then who's it comes in next, tomorrow, and says, we got the biggest army and the biggest missiles, and we own all the money in the world. And you're gonna tell our 200 million people no, or 200 million soldiers no? With what army? Send out your mo'os, send out your mo'os to battle us, you know. That ain't gonna happen. So, unless the fundamental principles that are operating here are laid down one by one, what are you opening Pandora's box to? Because most Kanakas are not dumb. They said, forget it, who's gonna take on China? Well, guess what? Switzerland has no army, to speak of, and there are countries that survive on their wits and treaties, okay? Hawaii was a neutral country that had treaties with over 50 countries and ambassadors. Been there, done that. But we need everybody. If we have kingdom government, we're going to need a lot of people to run everything, and you cannot do it on Kanakas. My purpose of saying this is, we still have ana people that do curses and stuff, but we can't lose one ana person. Out of 7 billion people, 500,000 is let 0.0000. We need everybody. Everybody. We don't have to push the same way, but we need everybody. So it's really important to get it right the first time, because you don't get second chances in this big boys game. So understanding in truth is the way to set your compass, and to allow, the common sense on the people is like this high. So let the people decide what the new constitution will be, how the government is to be picked, and where to go, because under the Hawaii Kingdom law, you have freedom of religion, freedom of association. You have all these freedoms that are guaranteed, that you can sue the ali'i, mo'i, wahine, was done all the time. You can do it within the law, and you have rights, and you can challenge the king, you can challenge his rule, you can challenge the law, and you don't get thrown in prison, and you have freedom of association and everything. It was done under William Charles Lunalilo. There was 96% literacy in Kanaka in Hawaiian language, written and spoken, and English. Today, can you say the same? No homeless, and when you went into jails, it wasn't thousands of Hawaiians dispossessed and in jail. So, excuse me, when you look at the model, I think it behooves everybody to know their history and what made it work and why today it's not working. But that's your water to carry. It's your water to carry. But I thank you for coming to this class. Now I'm going to open it up to questions. Anybody have questions on anything I said? You have the paperwork. of the specific cases and laws that are finding of fact, we do want to go out to the Bureau of Conveyances and the archives. That is logistical here. I'm just your docent. Okay, the logistics is here, and we will set the time so that we can go out there. We can tape the session at the Bureau of Conveyances, because but the archives, I'm just afraid that if I give out my secrets on tape, they'll counter it, and then you walk in and they're just chairs, and they'll say, "Can I help you? Go to the State Library." You know, we don't want that to happen. Yeah.
Can you spell the Bureau of Conveyances? I'll make sure I get that right.
I'm not a good speller. Sorry.
Bureau.
B-R-E-A-U-R-E-A-D. When you mention all these things that you have researched.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You have Kamehameha schools, immersion schools, and all that.
Yeah.
You have your Hawaiian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why aren't the secrets?
Okay, question is, why is our charter schools, Hawaiian charter schools, not taught what I'm putting on the table? Because they don't know. They don't know where to look at. They don't know where to begin. The part of playing, the part of playing this game is the shutdown principle was enacted. And then those are the gatekeepers at the archives and library are not there to help Kanakas, because they don't want you to get what I'm telling you. Independently, unless you're driven to a point of mania, you won't do all of this massive thing to find out, because it doesn't affect you.
You don't have the, yeah.
They don't know, it simply doesn't affect you. Most people are driven by a carrot, which is, you're gonna get $20 million if you find out this answer. So that's their motivational factor. My motivational factor was in my early years as a child and as a teenager, as a young adult, I was surrounded by 90-year-olds that passed to me knowledge that most people were never given. And it actually was nice stories, and I loved those stories, but to me they were just stories at 20. Until you fast forward in the future, and those stories became finding of facts.
Real, yeah.
And they became very real because you could go back to the library and prove them right. And you could stop things, you could stop development and everything. It's called standing, cause of standing of eminent harm. And I had the tools to draw from, because the reservoir was poured into me by my family, which I never thought of anything. It was just beautiful stories I love, and I
and you didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it. Didn't appreciate what they gave me. Until I saw the law said, if you put this on the table, we will protect it. And if you show, like the Hanapi case, let me talk to you about Hanapi. Sorry. Hanapi was on Molokai, this Hawaiian man and his wife, this howdy rich guy got all this land, and they bulldozed the springs and did all kind of heaven to the land. Hanapi, because of being Hawaiian, and it's his kuleana and stuff, he went to fix and repair the land and the springs that were bulldozed and everything. He got arrested for trespassing. Yet his Hawaiian cultural tenant pash rights were violated. So he and his wife went to First Circuit Court to fight it. He lost, or not First Circuit, but he went to court to fight it. He lost. He went to the Intermediate Court of Appeal. He lost. He went finally to the State Supreme Court. And the State Supreme Court said, we want to help you out, Mr. Hanapi, but show us in Western Palapala history as a finding of fact in front of this body for us to redress your issue and make you whole, show us where in history Hawaiians healed the land specifically and what they said and what they did. Hanapi being a normal guy who wasn't into a bookworm, how the heck would he know? Okay, so he lost at the Supreme Court, but he was right. My case in Eva, we're using Hanapi's case to answer Hanapi. So even if we lose, we're going to answer Hanapi. And what we're bringing to the table is the rights of the Makihiki, the La'au rights, the Pa'ea fires, all of the stuff to reset the land. We're bringing the Lamapule Olelo and Kapu Kapu, showing how to purify the land through the Limukala in Malo, Kamakau, Abraham Forerunner. So being a teacher, I got the book stuff. So we're going to answer Hanapi's question through our case. We may never win, but that's not my concern. My concern is Hanapi was right. He may not have had the box, but I do have the box, and now I can bring it in and bring in Hanapi's case to my case of Eva. And by the way, you wanted the box? Here it is. You know, Kamaka, page, number, citation, everything. Makahiki writes, Paea writes, all the reset
You're
stuff.
going to answer all his never
In Hawaiian, from Malo, chapter and verse that he didn't know.
Yeah,
So
you know.
the minimum case is to say, for the record, the truth. What you do with it, it's not my concern. You ask for it, you're going to get it. Okay. That's what's important, is to stand for something. And to stand for something is what is right. What is right is walk in line with the truth. You know, it's called integrity. And so that's what holds up laws and the respect of law, is if it means something, it has to stand for something. It cannot be empty words or it's useless. And that's what this whole process is about, affirming the process. Because if we don't have a process, you have anarchy, and everybody's at each other's throats, and nobody has any rights. So we have to answer these point by point as you put them on the table.
But you know, what I'm trying to say is, and you're not doing justice to people like Patty them and Leo them, and not educating them about their God-given right.
Well, we are. This class and this tape is, you know, they may extinguish me, but it's on tape, and our last class was on tape. My coming to the forefront and giving them specifics is, I want to teach my audience to do what they need to do. And if they choose to teach others and use that material, that's their business. And the fact is, I showed up now, and we're doing it now. It may not have been done, you know, before, but it's being done now, and that's what's important.
But what gets me is, it should have been done while they were in school.
Couldas and shouldas
Yeah.
are what they are, but the thing is,
It's
we're
happening
here
now.
now.
Here
We're
now.
here now,
To
and
me,
that's what's
well,
important.
that's important
Yeah.
because, see, before you ever came, and she was talking to Lucy about
Right.
this thing about her family, and then Lucy said, you know, there are things, you know, steps to go through, and this is what brought you in because, you know, you're an authority on it because you fight for it and you do a lot of research. But I'm not Hawaiian, but I'm paying attention.
Right.
Because I may marry an old Hawaiian man,
Right,
you know?
right.
I can tell, you know?
Oh, yeah.
That is the truth, Patty.
I think
But
they
you
can
need to know.
Yeah,
don't
you know,
know.
there are kingdom nationals that are not Hawaiian, but they were kingdom nationals and have the rights and vested interests of a Hawaiian citizenry. And they were Filipino, Japanese, and Haole. And they have documents, like my Hope family from Norway, under Kamehameha III, they have their citizenship papers that give them rights of kingdom nationals that are still in existence because all the United States was, they threw a kappa over us and said, mines. This is mines, not yours. You're all dead, you mines. Okay, so where's the workermen's to come here and the fishermen's and the firemen's to come and, you know, push back? Where's your army? The thing about it is, your army is here.
You are.
We are. The army is already here. And how does what is the army's muscle and exercise of that authority? The law and your brains and wits. What you got in your box is what you play with, okay? And so you guys are going to be experts because your desire, as Auntie Alice Holokai said, it all predicates on my desire, I desire. And it's so true. She always would say, go God's way, everything be A-okay. You know, real simple stuff. And she go, horse like water, horse come to water. Okay, and it was like, you know, it's really true. Your interest and your desire leads you to where you think it's in your best interest to go. Yes, Auntie.
Yeah, I was at one of the OHA meeting and one of the trustees was asking us, do you folks consider yourself Native Hawaiian, Kanaka Maoli, or Hawaiians? What is the three? So he says, what are you folks? And he's a trustee on the OHA board.
This is called wordsmithing, and again I say using legal words to trap you in a box to define you. And what you say is, you cannot define me. You are putting, well, no, the thing that I'm trying to say here and communicate is, the legal trap is a lawyer will give you
against you.
Please let me speak. So otherwise I can't say what I'm trying to say, and you can answer later. What lawyers do as a legal trap is they give you two false alternatives to force you to go their way. Who made you God? Who made you God? And who gave you all the possibilities of time? It's false. What they said was false, and the answer would be, you can't define me because I won't let you. And it's none of your business. That's the truth.
Right.
What part of that is incorrect, can you please tell me? So they're using wordsmiths to trap you in false boxes that they created for their person of power, control, authority, and attention. To take away your power, manasak, and to tell you what you are and define you. The only thing that defines you is your choices. Because you're an evolving person that is not the same person 20 years ago and not the same person yesterday. Because as you gain knowledge, it affects what your choices as you see it, what's in your best interest. So these operating principles is they want to trap you and then tell you what you are and what you can and cannot do. And the answer is, you can't. You cannot. I am a free agent, an independent enterprise. And I define me by my choices. Nobody else. Any questions? That's the answer.
Another thing, there was some case several years ago, and it had to do with Lily Okalani and defining her will as natives. These are for the natives. It was interpreted as those who also was born here, whatever nationality they are native to her will.
Yeah, I'll answer that.
Please.
Yeah, okay. You have to encapsulate Queen Liliuokalani's mindset. You cannot impose your 2014 what you feel that she thought. That's invalid. The research that is done, like I mentioned to you, Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness is not driving your 1968 Mustang. Okay? The framers of the Constitution saw it as owning property as happiness, because that meant you were a free man, not a slave, a bonded slave, either brought over from Africa or bonded from England, because you had debts or you were a prisoner and bonded. So when you owned land, it said you were free, and it said you were a citizen, and it said you had voting rights. That made you happy, because you were a sayer of the destiny of your country, you were free and not owned by another human being, and you had the opportunity of increase your abundance from your land and have an inheritance to pass on as a legacy to your progeny. Queen Liliuokalani, what she said as natives, and what in the will of Bernice Pauahi Bishop, who said, when she talked about Aboriginal, okay, what was from the royal school, from the missionaries, and from their adult life of visiting the United States and all the books they read, and what they saw happening to their people, what was their mindset in the word they specifically chose? You have to go back and have Liliuokalani answer your question for you. It's like you cannot take from the Bible and pull out what you think the Bible says. The Bible tells you what it says. You got to go to the Old Testament to unlock the New Testament, and the New Testament to unlock the Old Testament, because they're on the same vibe thousands of years ago, and they're telling you what the key is. You can't assume what the key is. They're telling you what they mean in other speeches, in other writings. You know, Queen Liliuokalani, just to put in your box, has 57 diaries, and it's up at the Bishop Museum. Her personal thoughts and feelings of what she felt. So when you answer that as a finding of fact, it can't be your opinion. Why? opinions change. They're not a fact. But when you say in Queen Liliuokalani's 53rd diary, 1886, she quote, and I quote, this is what she says. Now I'm answering that question, not in my opinion, but what she said. Now you're talking the truth. So it says sweat equity to carry the water and find out in her writings what she said, not because of what you feel or what you think or what you suppose. It's from her own mouth, chapter and verse. This is what she meant. And now you're standing on pot. No one can challenge you. Yeah. It's a fact. Yeah. They can't push you off because
challenges that was
yeah.
put on for
Right.
the children.
Right. So what happens is when it's turned around and the attackers come to ho'opa, slap, 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 challenge, you say, what part of this didn't she mean? It's her words, and it's very clear. You know.
Does that stand also for the Queen's Hospital under the charter, Native Hawaiians? They have, because I remember my first son was born there, and I wasn't given a bill or anything
Right.
like that. It was because of hardship.
Right.
So I asked, when they was gonna do the one over here in Eva Beach, under Queens, I asked the man, are you still gonna be honoring the charter that the king and queen had placed
Okay.
about Native
This
Hawaiians?
is where the Hawaiians fall off the cliff. Is
You
the
are.
law says what it is, and the principles of the document stand. Board of directors can come in and say, don't look over there, look over here. Redirect your sight. The thing is, in law, you have to get the box, get all the laws, and say, you have no choice, because you have to follow the law. And your opinion doesn't count here, sir. So you don't go to the guy who stole your car and say, hey, brother, I want my car back, and he goes and he pulls out a cigarette lighter and says, here. And he said, I said my car, and he said, you should be damn lucky I'm giving you a cigarette lighter. But you got the law to adverse possession, your possession from him, and arrest him for stealing your property and not following the law. But Kanakas, when someone steals their land, they go out and ask him for legal advice. Can you tell me how to get my land back? It's like, do your own work. He's going to say, you can't get your land back. Because if you go there, they won't help you out. Oh, too bad. Hey, auntie, he says I can't get the land back. Okay, we try. And walk away. That's trying? Are you kidding me? You know, you don't go to the criminal to ask redressment and then he tells you, I'm going to keep it, get lost. And you go, okay. So that's why we're here, okay? So what I'm trying to show you is a path of A plus B equals C. You don't take what they tell you. You take the law, you take the supporting documents to the law, and you give them notice. And the notice says, get out, you're trespassing. Here it is, and I got in your thing, kapu, what to say, how to legally put it down. It's my research, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a paralegal. What you do with that information, what I researched out, is your business. These were winning cases, this is how they did it. But you figure it out, you know, because this is your water to carry. Responsibility is, once you get it, is for you to do more research and follow through. Remember, stay away from your opinion. It means nothing because it always changes. And it's called hearsay in court. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on our second class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.